the best student of the college. He is also in the merit list of ICI in CF final. He is also law graduate and completed his LLM in international taxation from Vienna University, Austria, Europe. He has authored 3 books on international taxation and transfer pricing. Friends, he has been elected to NIRC to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for the period 2019-2022, the current term. He is chairman of the Direct Tax Committee of the NIRC of ICI. He is president of Tax Research Foundation, an NGO doing research in the field of taxation. He has been nominated as YIN India representative for a period of 2 years for the International Fiscal Association, India branch, a Netherlands-based body. He is partner in APT and Company LLP Chartered Accountants, having head office at Delhi and 18 branches all over India. He has delivered more than 1,300 lectures at national and international levels. He is visiting faculty member at National Academy of Direct Taxes Nagpur, DTRTIs, Siram College of Commerce, ICI, ICSI, ICWI, and Management Institutes. Friends, he is also faculty member of certain courses of international taxation for CA. He was special invitee of Direct Taxes Committee of ICI and International Taxation Committee of ICI. He has experience of handling various international taxation, including transfer pricing matters of big corporates. He has worked as finance analyst in PNG. He has won many laurels during school, college, and CA students' life. He presented many papers in international, national, and regional conferences on various topics of tax. He is a good orator and held many responsible positions. Friends, with these words, I request all of you present here to join me to felicitate Avinash ji. This is for you, Avinash ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Our love and affection from DTPA for your wonderful gesture and personality. Thank you, sir. Floor is all yours. You can now deliberate on the topic.
Thank you, Giridhar ji, for such a nice bouquet which I am missing for last 7 months, 7 8 months that no bouquet is coming to me, and my wife will be very happy to see this virtual bouquet.
Hope you can feel the order also, sir, of the lovely roses.
No, no, actually, one time what happened was I just bought a bouquet on my wife's birthday, and when I take the bouquet home, so she have asked me, ki, where is your seminar? You have not told me that today also is also your seminar. So then I said, no, I have purchased it specifically for you today. She said, it will not happen. You will never purchase bouquet for me. It has to be given in a seminar only. Okay, sir. So thank you very much, sir. And it was nice flowers that have been received virtually today. And I think I am first time coming to this platform of DTPA. Though I heard a lot about the DTPA, and I'm getting lot of updates from DTPA, lot of compilation coming on the WhatsApp groups, and very nice compilations, and few things we also missed out from the compilation made by the DTPA. It is really, really very, very good that we are updating, and I believe, sir, you are doing lot of work, lot of service to our profession.
Avinash ji, your tower is
International Indian. So hats for inviting me here today and discussing about the topic today. So respected President of DTP NK Goyal Saab, Deputy Convener of the Study Circle Sanjay Podar ji, Deputy Convener Manjulata Madam, and Rajesh ji, who is coordinating with me, Rajesh Agarwal ji, the Secretary of DTPA, who is coordinating me for this session. So, sir, as told by President Saab, I do not conquer few of the views of our President Saab on this particular topic. He said it is a small topic. Sir, no, it is not a small topic. It is really very, very big topic. And I can tell you, sir, for last 1 month, I am struggling really very, very hard with 3 of my clients who is having a turnover of more than 20,000 crores in every year. So they all are listed entity. Maybe it looks very nice that, okay, it is only 0.1%, or for the current year, it will be 0.075%. But the kind of burden on the SSC for the compliance, not only on the filing of return, but also actually compliance to be done by the big corporates, it is really hell of a job. And nowadays all system, whether it is SAP, whether it is Oracle, or whether there is a ERP based solution which have been taken by all the companies, their software developers say no, this will not happen, that will not happen. How we will comply with all these requirements with the system driven companies nowadays, that is big question mark. And the biggest system which is being used by many big corporates is SAP, and they have also come up with a utility which was wrong. And I think the 7th time today morning they have replaced the existing utility, and 7th version have come today. Still there are certain issues which are coming with this utility also. So it looks very small. It is only a subsection which is being inserted in 206C, but there are many nuances of this section. One is the legal part of it, that whether it is applicable, not applicable, what would be the fate. And second is the practical applicability of actual collection and how we should account for in our books. So we will more discuss about the practical parts that will come in our day-to-day life, and as a professional, many companies will come to you and seek your guidance on this particular thing. And then there are certain question answer I would like to take from you, that what suggestion that you will make and what improvement that we can do, so that we can help our clients not only to comply with the law, but also to do the business effectively by making this entire thing in place. So now let us first come to the law itself, that what is the law. So if we see 206C is the main section, which charging section, which talks about the TCS, that every person who is receiving the payment has to collect the TCS. Then Finance Act 2020 have inserted a new provision, which is 1H. And 1H, if we see that provision, it starts with every person. The opening is no bifurcation, whether corporate, non-corporate, firm, individual, whatever is the form of the organization, every person who is a seller, being a seller. And then seller have been defined in the law itself, in the same section itself, 1H itself, that who is a seller. Then they have a definition of seller that we will discuss later on this. So every person who is a seller, seller of what? Goods or services. He said seller, वो हम अभी देखेंगे कि seller की definition में only goods है या service है, but he said every person who is a seller who receives any amount, the person who receives any amount, or amount for what? As a consideration of sale. So what is important is amount as a consideration of sale. So if anything is received which is not a consideration of sale, then it is not covered. So if I take a loan from any other party, then it is not a consideration for sale. But if I take an advance from the party towards the sale of goods, then yes, it is a consideration of sale. If I receive the amount which is sale already made, then it is also a consideration of sale. So any amount received as a consideration of sale and the aggregate value of the receipt, again it is not value of sale, it is value of receipt. If the total amount received exceeds 50 lakh rupees, then whatever you receive exceeding 50 lakh rupees, you are liable, the seller, who every person, the seller is liable to collect TCS at the rate of 0.1, or now for this year 0.075% of such receipt. Now this is the section. Then the seller, they have defined, seller means a person whose previous year turnover is exceeding rupees 10 crore. So जिसकी पिछले साल 10 करोड़ से ज्यादा की टर्नओवर है, उसको जो है उसके ऊपर ये करंट ईयर में प्रोविजन अप्लाई करेगी. और ये प्रोविजन कहती है कि अगर आप सेलर की डेफिनेशन में कवर हो गए, तो आपको जो है जो भी आप अमाउंट रिसीव करेंगे एज अ कंसिडरेशन ऑफ सेल. So please note the underlying word is as a consideration of sale or sale of goods. So goods का जो भी हम सेल का जो हम सामान के लिए जो भी हम लेंगे, उसके लिए हमें क्या करना है, हमें TCS कलेक्ट करना है as a seller at the rate of 0.1 or 0.075% till 31st March, and that amount we have to collect on the receipt and pay it to the government. So this is the provision all about. और ये हमें receive किससे करना है, ये हमें receive करना है buyer से. And then they have डिफाइन कि बायर की डेफिनेशन में क्या है, और बायर की डेफिनेशन में उन्होंने कहा कि जिसको भी आप ये सामान बेचोगे वो बायर है, एक्सेप्ट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट। तब स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को छोड़ दे, बाकी सब बायर है। आप इस लोकल अथॉरिटीज को छोड़ दीजिए, और लोकल अथॉरिटीज कौन से वाली, जो हमने सेक्शन 1020 में, सेक्शन 1020 में जो होस्ट इज म्यूटिंग मी, so प्लीज डोंट अनम्यूट मी। चलिए सर, मैं आई डोंट नो कब उन्होंने म्यूट कर दिया बीच में। तो सर मैंने आपको दोबारा से एक छोटा सा रिकैप कर लेते हैं। दैट हो जो भी उसने मेरे को बायर है उससे मुझे ये कलेक्ट करना है। आई हैव टू कलेक्ट इट फ्रॉम द बायर, and the buyer have been defined in the law itself in 2061H, where it says any person whom you are selling is a buyer except central government, state government, local authorities as defined under section 10 clause 20 of the act, and any person whom you are exporting। तो जो उसको भी आप एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हो, जिससे आपको इंपोर्ट ऑफ गुड्स आ रहे हैं, वो भी बायर की डेफिनेशन से बाहर है। तो सर ये तो लॉ हो गया। अब इसमें सर देयर आर सर्टेन इश्यूज, सो लेट अस डिस्कस each and every issue one by one। The first issue which comes to me is about the applicability itself। So when this provision becomes applicable, this provision becomes applicable on 1st of October 2020, that is today। So from today onwards, if I receive any amount from and I am the eligible seller from the buyer who have been defined in the act, that वो buyer की definition में आता है, एंड द एग्रीगेट अमाउंट अगर वो मेरा 50 लाख तक कुछ नहीं करना, एक्सीडिंग 50 लाख करता हूं, तो उसके अंदर मुझे टीसीएस कलेक्ट करना है। अब फर्स्ट प्रॉब्लम कम्स दैट 50 लाख की जो लिमिट है, दैट 50 लाख लिमिट विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम टुडे, और इट विल स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 1st of April, and what will happen if I receive the amount exceeding 50 lakh before 1st of October itself? So there are 2-3 options। तो अभी हम इसके ऊपर 1 मिनट में पार्क करता हूं। तो हमने पहले हम एक मान के चलते हैं कि मेरे एक सिंपल पार्टी है जिससे मैंने आज तक कोई बिजनेस नहीं किया। 1 अक्टूबर को पहली बार मैंने बिजनेस स्टार्ट किया, और पहली बार मेरे उस पार्टी को बिल रेज किया, या उस पार्टी ने मुझे एडवांस दिया, क्योंकि वो एज अ कंसिडरेशन ऑफ सेल था, तो उसके ऊपर मुझे टीसीएस कलेक्ट करना है इफ इट एक्सीड्स 50 लाख रुपीज ऑन दी अमाउंट एक्सीडिंग 50 लाख रुपीज। उसने मुझे 1 करोड़ रुपए का एडवांस मेरे अकाउंट में 1 अक्टूबर 2020 को भेज दिया। On this 1 crore rupees, 50 लाख रुपीस तक मुझे कुछ नहीं करना। रिमेनिंग 50 लाख जो मेरा एक्सीडिंग 50 लाख है, उसके ऊपर मुझे 0.075% उससे या तो एडिशनल कलेक्ट करना है, या जो भी उसने मुझे भेजा उसको इंक्लूसिव ऑफ टीसीएस मानते हुए मैं जो है उसको सरकार को जमा कराऊंगा। अब यहाँ पे सर सबसे पहली प्रॉब्लम आई कि मान लीजिए उस बायर ने मुझे 1 करोड़ रुपए, 1 करोड़ 10 लाख ले लेते हैं, थोड़ा इजी हो जाएगा, 1 करोड़ 10 लाख रुपए भेज दिए, 50 लाख मैंने हटा दिया। अब 60 लाख रुपए के ऊपर अब 0.075% या तो मैं उसको एडिशनली भेजूं कि भाई तुम मेरे को 60 लाख के ऊपर इतना एक्स्ट्रा भेज, तब मैं जमा कराऊंगा। अब उसने तो 1 करोड़ 10 लाख भेज दिए, अब मैं अपने यहाँ पे अकाउंटिंग कैसे करूं? हाउ आई शुड डू दी अकाउंटिंग इन माई बुक? ये तो मैं अभी सिर्फ फर्स्ट केस ले रहा हूं जहां पे मुझे एडवांस आया, अभी तक मैंने कोई उसको बिल रेज नहीं किया, किसी तरह का मैंने उसको कोई कुछ नहीं किया, आज ही बिजनेस शुरू हुआ है। एंड फर्स्ट ट्रांजैक्शन दैट ही हैज सेंड इट टू माय बैंक अकाउंट इज 1 करोड़ 10 लाख, 50 lakhs no problem, remaining 60 lakh I have to presume this as inclusive of the TCS amount, और मुझे रिवर्स कैलकुलेशन करके उस 60 लाख में से 0.075% अलग निकालना है, और रिमेनिंग अमाउंट को मेरे को एडवांस मानते हुए अपनी किताबों में मैं खड़ा कर दूं। सिमिलरली ये तो चलो सेलर ने तो कर दिया, सेलर के तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। अब बायर क्या करेगा? बायर अपने किताबों में, जब वो बायर ने अपने यहाँ मेरे को एडवांस दिया होगा, तो बायर ने तो 1 करोड़ 10 लाख खड़ा कर रखा होगा, और मेरे यहाँ पे जो है वो 1 करोड़ 10 लाख माइनस टीसीएस होगा, तो कभी बुक्स ही नहीं रिकंसाइल होंगी। Nowhere, never this books will be reconciled. So this is first issue, it will come in the due course of time. Second sir, second issue what will come कि मान लीजिए मैंने 1 अप्रैल से लेकर 30 सितंबर तक किसी भी पार्टी को मान लीजिए 2 करोड़ की बिलिंग कर दी। I have already done a billing of 2 crore rupees and I have sold goods worth 2 crore rupees plus GST. For the sake of simplicity, say plus 18% GST. So I have already billed to that client 2 crore 36 lakh rupees from 1st of April till 30th September. I have already billed him. assuming he have not paid a single penny to me till date. अभी तक उसने कोई पैसा नहीं दिया. And today on 1st October, he pays me entire 2 crore 36 lakh. So my company, I am not a small client. My turnover is exceeding 10 crore. So it means it's a reasonably sized company. It's not a small business. So I am driven by the systems also. So in my books, the debtor comes is 2 crore 36 lakh. But the party have paid me, let's assuming 2 crore 36 lakh, exactly the same amount. Then what should I do? Whether I should include this, treat this 2 crore 36 lakh as the inclusive of TCS, and then I have to deduct it and say that the party have paid me less and ask him to pay more, or should I raise a debit note today that okay, I received the entire payment of 2 crore 36 lakh, but there is a TCS provision which is applicable, hence this is the amount of TCS and you have to pay me extra, and party said okay, I will pay you after 3 months that TCS amount. Then what will happen? Whether income tax department will assume and will say okay, when you receive this TCS after 3 months, then you pay to me. The income tax department will say no, today you have received 2 crore 36 lakh, so immediately you have to presume it inclusive, and then you have to pay TCS, and then remaining debtor you can realize after 3 months, and in that 3 months also you assume it is that inclusive of TCS and pay me an amount equal to that amount also. So that was a kind of a circle which will come later every year. So this is a very tedious amount of accounting every company has to maintain to do all these activities. The third scenario, I have billed 2 crore 36 lakh from 1st of April till 30th September. Sale has been made. Out of this, 1 crore already received before 30th September, before 1st of October, 1 crore received. Remaining 1 crore 36 lakh received on or after 1st of October. Then what will happen? The department issued a clarification on this guidelines in it. They said the limit of 50,000 should be calculated for the entire financial year, which will start from 1st of April till date. But if the amount does not exceed 50 lakh rupees, if the amount exceeds 50 lakh rupees before applicability of this provision of 1st October, then whatever you receive on or after 1st of October, you have to collect TCS on that. Previous amount, forget about it. Forget about all this amount. Only the future amount that you will receive on or after 1st of October, that you have to collect a TCS on this amount which you have received on or after 1st of October. So 2 crore 36 lakh mein se 1 crore already received, no TCS to be collected. For the amount which is received 1 crore 36 lakh on or after 1st of October, I have to get the TCS done. I have to collect the TCS from the बायर. सो दिस ये मुझे करके और जमा कराना है, और उसके बाद उसकी रिटर्न जो भी भरनी है वो कंप्लायंस अलग है. बट अब आज की डेट में व्हाट इज द रियल टाइम प्रॉब्लम व्हाट कॉर्पोरेट्स आर फेसिंग, दैट ऑन द एंटायर डेटर लिस्ट दैट दे हैव एज ऑन 30th September, they have to prepare, they have to finalize everything, and on these debtors they have to see how much payment they have received from 1st April to 31st of September, not the amount billed but the amount actually received, because the 50 lakh exemption is on the amount which is actually received. It is not on the amount billed during 1st April till 30th September. It is, so suppose the client whom you have made a billing of 2 crore 32 lakh or 2 crore 36 lakh in my example, but you have received nothing. So then 50 lakh exemption will be available from 1st October onwards received. If you have received only 20 lakhs before 1st October, then 30 lakhs you have to give him from 1st October onwards. If you have received 50 lakhs or more during the previous year, then even 1 rupee received on or after 1st of October, you have to collect the TCS of 0.075%. So this is what the law says, or this is what is the provision that we have to comply with. Now there are certain issues with respect to the particular item. The first, what will happen to the GST? So whether we should collect TCS on the GST also, or it should be only on the base amount. The one argument to this is that GST is not a consideration for sale. So because the word used in the act is consideration of sale of any goods, so hence GST is not at all a consideration for sale. Hence TCS should not be deducted on the GST amount. And this is my stand also, that this should not be there. But on 29th September, I cannot help it. They have issued a circular, they have issued a guideline where they have categorically written in that circular is that yes, on the entire payment received, the person is liable to collect TCS, including GST. So whatever is the GST amount also, you have to collect TCS on GST also. So that's, please note that now the circular and the guidelines is there, hence you have to deduct it. But according to me, this is not a fair treatment what department have given. But yes, there was certain practical problems which have been solved now, because one of my client, they are selling their goods. Few items are under 5%, few items are under 12%, and few items are under 18%. Now they are selling this. This is an FMCG company. So now they are selling this goods to one person, which is a distributor, and they are receiving payments from the distributor. So their problem is that how we should determine how much is the GST and how much is the consideration price, because every day they are billing to them and they are receiving payment on account payment. So for their side, it is a practical problem to compute the amount of consideration minus GST. But there are many other companies who are liable for 18% or 12% flat on their product. So it was unnecessary. They have to collect TCS on 0.1% on the GST amount and pay it to the government. So it is kind of a blockage of their substantial working capital. Think of a company whose turnover is let's say 1,000 crore, and out of 1,000 crore they are liable for an 18% GST, which is amounting to be 180 crores. On this 180 crore, 0.1% amount has to be blocked. So this is then blockage of fund. What the buyer has to be prepared with this, and in the chain, in the supply chain, every person at every level. So there may be a company like a cement company, any ABC company who is selling to a super stockist or distributor. Then they are selling to another stockist. Then there was an area wise person, and below that there was an actual retailer. So if everybody, the sale is exceeding rupees 50 lakh rupees and the turnover is exceeding rupees 10 crore in the preceding year, which is in the case of cement and building material is very common. So then in those cases, everybody has to collect TCS at the rate of 0.1 or 0.07% in the supply chain, which is unnecessary blockage of fund, and compliance also, what they have to do from today onwards. So this is a big question. Who will bear the compliance? We have to bear the compliance. I think Goel Sahab, I request you, I need a help from you that I cannot see the chat box. So if you see that any question coming to the chat box, so please you ask the question on
Yes, sir. Yes. In fact, that is why at the end, some of us will repeat the questions from the chat box.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir. So even during my session also, you are free to please ask anything.
I think, sir, that will disturb because people will unmute themselves and there will be you'll have problem. So
sir, unmute. We will not allow any person to unmute. If there is anything in the chat box which you feel is relevant as of now, so you just ask me. Only you are authorized, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. So let me take one, since you have given this liberty to me. So in your example of 2 crore 36 lakhs, supposing I had an opening debtors of 50 lakhs also, and that was also not received, and as on 1st October I received 286 together.
I'm coming to that question.
Okay.
Because there was a legal issue in it. Let me discuss the legal issue and then we will see whether it is possible. Or let me start with your question now. Sir, as rightly pointed out by you, so let's say there was a company who have an opening debtors of 5 crore as on 1st of April. And they have made a sale to that party amounting to rupees, let's say 15 crores during the month, during the period 1st April to 30th September. So total exposure is 5 crore opening, 15 crore during the period. Assuming he have not received a single penny from 1st April to 30th September. Simplest example. Now on 30th September, they have an opening debtor of 20 crores. Out of this 20 crores, 5 crore belong to the previous years and 15 crore belong to the current year. So this is the situation. Now the question is that and assuming the entire 20 crore comes today on 1st of October. Very simple example. Now on which amount I have to collect TCS? So first of all, 50 lakhs exemption should be there. So out of 20 crore, 50 lakh has to be there. So there is no dispute. There is no point in there. So TCS collected only on 19 crore 50 lakh. Now the question is, can we collect TCS on the 5 crore opening debtor? Answer is yes. However, there is a second school of thought. The second school of thoughts is, and again, it is one of the renowned author who have this view, who says, and I give you his argument also, and then we can evaluate which argument is better. His argument is that because the provision itself is applicable from 1st of October 2020 itself, hence it gets triggered only on the sales or the amount received on account of sales made on or after 1st of October itself. So he is of the view that sale made prior to 1st of October 2020, the person is not liable to collect TCS on that particular amount. Forget about 1st April. He is talking about 30th September also. So this is one school of thought which says that this provision is not retrospective, this is prospective, and it is amount received for the sales made on or after 1st of October. So sales made before 1st of October will not be triggered by this provision. However, there is another school of thought, another author, another renowned author, they are of the opinion that applicability is on the amount collected, not on the sales made. So they said that applicability is on the amount collected on or after 1st October 2020, which may be with respect to the consideration of sale, which might happen on or after 1st October or before 1st of October also. So he is of the opinion that this applicability is on the receipt, not on the sales made. So meaning thereby, now the board have clarified, and yesterday also they have come up with a press release also which substantiate my second school of thought, and they said that whether there is an opening debtor of 1st of April or 30th of September or 1st of October, it may be, if the payment received on or after 1st of October, then person has to collect TCS on that point at the rate of 0.1% or 0.075%, or because it is as a consideration of sale. So if there was an advance, then it is okay. Advance received before 1st of October, no problem. But any amount which is received actually hitting your bank account, then it has to be done like this. Now the second question when we talk about receipt is what will happen if I do not receive the amount in my bank account, but it was settled by way of a book adjustment? Many times it happens. So I am selling goods to somebody, I am also buying goods from them. So I have sold goods amounting rupees, let's say 50 crore, and I have purchased the goods back from him amounting rupees 40 crore, and I have actually received only 10 crores in my bank account. So whether the amount which is received, which is as a consideration, or the consideration is received by way of a book entry only, whether you will deem it as an amount received or it will not be deemed to be an amount received. So there is also a dispute that many people are assuming, no, it is not a received amount, it is only adjustment. So they are using a word called adjustment. But there are many people who are believing, no, it is deemed to be received, and if it is deemed to be received, then you have to collect TCS on the entire amount. So then it may be a cross TCS collection. So if when I sold the goods to him, I have to collect TCS, and when they have sold goods to me, they have to collect TCS. So it was a bilateral deposit of TCS if there is any adjustment to that. To my mind, personally, what I feel that it may be possible that some kind of an adjustment might be allowed in this case. However, in case of in particular case, they have specifically told that in the circular issued on 29 September, they have specifically told that no adjustment is permissible for sales return, discount, indirect tax. So this is what have been mentioned, that no adjustment on account of sales return, and it is not a sales return. No adjustment on account of discount. It is not also a discount. No adjustment on account of indirect taxes. So this particular case is out of all the three limbs. They have said it is simply I am selling goods to somebody and I am rebuying the goods from him. So many times it happens that I am selling raw material to them. They do a job work, they make the product and sell it back to me. So, and then we are actually not paying anything. It is all by way of a book adjustment. Only the difference is payable or receivable from that person. So that particular item, that particular thing is still not clear. But my personal suggestion, my personal view is that in those situations, I can take the liberty and I can say that yes, I can save myself from collecting TCS in this case. However, other authors may have different view. However, other income tax department may have different view, but this particular thing still remains in place. Next, sir, in the definition of buyer, they have specifically excluded government and state government. So they said that any money received from the central government or the state government or local authorities specifically covered under section 1020, then in that case they are not there is no need of collection of any tax. Then but what will happen to authorities like Noida authority, where Supreme Court have held that they are not local authorities as defined under Income Tax Act? So I believe in Calcutta also you may be having some kind of these authorities, these municipal corporations, where by virtue of the Noida authority case of the Supreme Court, it was held that they are not covered in the definition of section 10 of section 10 as prescribed under the Income Tax Act में जो local authority की definition है. So it meaning thereby that if you are buying anything from them, which is amount to be goods, then in that case you have to collect TCS if your turnover exceeds 10 crore in the preceding year. So that's again a big question. So tomorrow I may be buying something from these authorities which is in terms of goods, and if that is there, so we have to check whether it is applicable or not. The third exemption is given for the export-import transaction. That in case of export of goods, that you are making export of goods outside India, and as a consideration of exports, if the person is receiving the receipt from that person outside India, in those cases also there is an exemption of collection of TCS. So any exports made outside India, and if the person is receiving remittances from abroad for these payments received, then the no TCS provision is applicable. Now the issue comes, what will happen to SEZ? So if the sale is made to SEZ and the unit located in SEZ is making the payment for the sale, whether you will deem it as an export or not, answer not clear. But to best of my mind, it is still covered, because for the indirect tax purposes, SEZs are deemed to be outside India, but for the income tax purposes, it is deemed to be a resident in India. And if it is resident in India, any unit located in the SEZ also is filing return in India as a SEZ, and they might be claiming 10AA, etc. But they are filing their return as resident in India. Hence, TCS provision of 206C is applicable in case of SEZ units also. So few people may say that SEZ might covered under exports, but my take on this is that they are not covered under this provision. They are not covered in the exemption from the 206C. So they are also liable to collect TCS, as well as their TCS is also liable to be collected. So there is no exemption which is available to the SEZ units. Now there are certain benefits which have been extended by way of a circular, which are practical problems which will come. So the first problem which comes with the stock exchanges. So Goyal Saab is doing lot of trading in the stock exchange, and he is doing a lot of buying and selling in the F&O transactions. And might be he is not doing himself, but he have appointed a portfolio management person and given him 5 crore rupees that okay, you please invest on my behalf, and that portfolio manager every day buying and selling futures, every day buying selling F&O transaction, and the turnover which come to be, let's say, 100 crore in the previous year. So because he have crossed the threshold limit of 10 crore, and let's assume his stock exchanges are all securities and stock, and he might be in the commodity stock exchanges also, where he is buying selling the stocks in the commodity stock exchange also. So then what will happen? He is making payment to whom? He is making payment to the stock exchange. Similarly, he is receiving payment from whom? He is receiving payment from the stock exchange itself. He is not directly making payment to the exact buyer. He is also not receiving payment from the exact seller. Stock exchange is there in between. Then what will happen in those cases? Whether he is liable to collect TCS on all the payments received, etc., etc., and whether stock exchange, in whose name he has to collect, whether he will deposit it in the name of stock exchange or whom. So like this, they have clarified and they have given a relief that any transaction happened on a stock exchange, which is a recognized stock exchange in India, or a stock exchange in IFSC, which is a gift city in Ahmedabad, that whatever transaction happened between the person and the stock exchange, then this provision is not applicable and you are not liable to collect any TCS if the payment is being received from the stock exchanges. So this relief of stock exchange is being given by way of a circular issued by the department on 29th September. Then there was a Supreme Court ruling with respect to power. The Supreme Court held the supply of power. There was a big dispute between the taxpayers and the indirect tax department, not the direct tax department, but the indirect tax department, whether power is service or power is good. So they have said, the Supreme Court have held that the power is classified as good. Why this is important? Because if the supply of power is deemed to be a service, then it is out of the provision from the main section itself, because it is applicable only on goods. But if there is a provision that the Supreme Court have held that power is a purchase, is a goods, then when you buy the power, when you purchase the power from the person, then this is sale of goods. And in those cases also, the person has to collect. So who will collect? If there is a company, there is a user, commercial user, and if he is making payment to the power supply companies exceeding rupees 50 lakh rupees during the year, the power supply company, the power distribution company has to collect additional 0.1% from this person, from the industrial user, from the factory. So factories, normally people are getting bills of 15, 20, 25 lakhs a month. So all these companies now have to pay more, 0.1% more to the power distribution companies. Power distribution companies are buying power from power generating companies like NTPC, NHPC, Reliance Infra, Tata, and all these blah, blah, blah thing. And their average power bills of a state, I do not know about West Bengal or Calcutta, but in Delhi, average bill of one DISCOM is about 8,000 crore to 9,000 crore in an annum. So on this entire, this 8,000, 9,000 multiplied by, we have 4 DISCOMs in Delhi. So approximately, let's say 25,000 or 30,000 crores is the amount of power Delhi is buying from the generators. So on this entire 25,000 crores or 30,000 crores of power, these power generating units will again levy a TCS and collect TCS on this 25,000 crore. So sir, these are not small numbers. These are very, very big numbers which will come. 25,000 crores multiplied by 0.01%. Huge numbers. And entire power distribution companies across India are in losses. All power generating units are normally in losses. So this is the sector which is in loss nowadays. But still government wants money. The TCS has to be collected from all these companies, because power is goods now. Now in the power sector, there was a long-term power purchase and there is a short-term power purchase as well. So long-term power purchase is through a PPA, power purchase agreement, and short-term power purchase is through exchanges. So like we have stock exchange, we have commodity exchange, we also have a power exchange. What these power exchanges work? You go buy power from them, and if you have an excess power, you sell power on these power exchanges. Now in those cases, because power is goods now, if power is goods, then whenever you buy power from them, you are liable to pay TCS. Whenever you are selling power in the power exchange, then you are liable to collect TCS from the buyer. And who is the buyer? You do not know. Who is the seller? You do not know. You are buying it from the power stock exchange and you are also selling it to the power stock exchange. So then in that case, you have to apply this transaction of levy on the power stock exchanges. So again, they have said no need to collect TCS or no need to pay TCS if you are buying or selling power through a recognized stock exchange. And who will recognize it? There was a Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, CERC, who approves. So like we have SEBI. So in case of power stock exchanges, there is a CERC, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, who actually does so. So on these purchases through the power exchanges or sale of the power exchanges, which is of the power, then it is no TCS is applicable. Similarly, there was a RPO, renewable power certificate, which is to be obtained or which is to be bought for the power companies, specifically the distribution companies. So these certificates are also bought through stock exchanges only. So these certificates, you are also not required to collect the TCS or pay the TCS. So both the things are not applicable in case of power stock exchanges. Then there was a next controversy or next problem which will come about the government undertakings. So whether government includes government undertakings, so public sector undertakings are also included in the definition of government. Answer is no. So if you are buying or if you are selling goods to a public sector undertaking, and let's say any public sector, GAIL, any public sector, Power Corporation of India or Steel Authority of India or any other PSUs, so they are not government and TCS provisions are applicable on them. And if you are selling to these governments, these PSUs, then you have to collect TCS on these transactions. So that thing is also applicable. So few people are saying no, PSUs are also exempted. Answer is no, they are not exempted. Next. So there was one question which have come to me with respect to the turnover itself, that there was a peculiar case which came to me yesterday itself. So one of my professional colleague have asked me, so their turnover is 9 crore 50 lakhs in the preceding year without GST, and when they include the GST, it goes more than 10 crores. So now he said there was a circular dated 29th of September which says you have to include GST amount. So whether this TCS provision will be applicable on me or not, my answer to this query is no. That entire depends on the method of accounting that you have, and we know that we are all using exclusive basis of accounting, meaning thereby as far as the computation of turnover is concerned, then it has to be without GST itself. But when we talk about the percentage of the amount received, so amount received is always inclusive of GST. So meaning thereby that in the preceding year, if somebody have a turnover without GST, which is less than 10 crore, then these provisions are not applicable. So these provisions will be applicable only when their turnover exceeds 10 crore without GST. But if somebody is preparing books of accounts and showing their turnover, which is including GST, so there might be few people who are saying that my turnover is not 9 crore, it is 9 crore plus GST is the turnover what they have recorded in their P&L account itself. Then in that case, taking the guidance from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in the guidance note on tax audit, where they have defined about the turnover applicable for the tax audit, that what is to be included in the turnover. Then they said if there was an SSC who have shown his turnover inclusive of GST, then inclusive of GST should be taken as a turnover. Taking the same analogy here in this 206C1H, that if the balance sheet and the P&L account shows the turnover including GST, then for the purpose of 10 crore also we have to take inclusive. Otherwise, in the normal circumstance, this amount has to be taken as the exclusive of GST only. So this is the amount what we have to consider for the preceding year. So this is again a question that have been asked from me, which is clarified now. Then there was another problem which is there. It is not the problem, but it is written in the act itself. What will happen if the buyer do not provide me the PAN number? Then it's okay. You ask him to give you the Aadhaar number. If he do not provide me the Aadhaar number also, then you have to deduct at the rate of 1%. So like 206AA, we have correspondingly we have a section here which talks about the higher rate of 206CC. But it talks about 5%. Now this proviso have reduced from 5% to 1% only for the purpose of 206C1H. If the buyer is not providing you the Aadhaar number or the PAN number, then the TDS needs to be deducted at the rate of 1% instead of 0.1%. Next, sir. Next thing, what is the problem that we foresee these days is, suppose if I am supplying goods and services together. So there might be a case where the seller is providing services as well as goods, but it is a combo deal what he is providing. So maybe I am a contractor, and as a contractor, somebody have given me to construct the building as well as doing some kind of an interior decoration to that. I may be constructing a hotel, I may be constructing any building, I may be constructing what I say, a factory, I may be involved in selling of machine and installation of the same. If these are the scenarios, and if I receive the payment exceeding rupees 50 lakh rupees, but my TDS have already been deducted under 194C or any other provisions of the act, then the proviso is very clear that if the TDS has been deducted, in that case this TCS provision is not applicable under 206C. So this is also important to note. If the TDS have already been deducted, then there is no need to collect the TCS under this 206C. So this is also an important part which one has to look into before applying this TCS provision. Next, sir, there is one more point which have come to me, and I think this is something which is also so normally we know that we have a section 197, and corresponding to that we also have a 206 subsection 9, which talks about that if the person believes that his taxable income is below the threshold limit, or he is not liable to pay tax in the current year, he may apply to the assessing officer TDS or TCS, and then he will provide him either a nil withholding certificate or the zero withholding certificate. Unfortunately, 206C subsection 9 do not cover 206C 1H, meaning thereby the person cannot apply for the lower withholding or lower or nil withholding, not withholding, lower collection or nil collection certificate from the government. So that provision is not there, and he have no option but to pay tax to the government. So this is another unfortunate thing which will have happened. Then there was one controversy with respect to cars. So many car dealers are asking me that what will happen to their particular business. So the car companies are like Audi, Mercedes, and there are many big companies. They all are selling their cars, which is itself is exceeding 50 lakh rupees. So a Mercedes car amounting to be maybe 1 crore 20 lakh, a Porsche may be coming, or many other cars. Then in those cases, then what will happen? Exceeding rupees 10 lakh rupees, there was already a TCS provision which is there under 206C 1F, and now there is one more TCS provision under 1H. Then what to follow? Whether one is to be followed or both has to be followed, or the other one is to be followed, not this one is to be followed. Then what to do? Then they have also clarified in the circular, and which is rational also, that if TCS is already been collected under section 206C 1F, which is car exceeding rupees 10 lakh rupees, there is a TCS amount, then there is no need to collect TCS under 1H. So that is, they have made it very clear, they have clarified. But assuming what will happen to all the car dealers, when the company is making sale to the car dealers, and car dealers again make sale to a retailer, or within the showrooms, within the car dealers also, there are many times the sale, there is one car dealer A who may not have a car of a particular color, particular model. He generally buys from the other car dealer in the same city and then sold it to the ultimate customer. So when this car dealer A buying the car from car dealer 2 in the same city, or maybe from the outside the city, then again if it exceeds the payment amount, exceed 50 lakh rupees during the year, then he is liable to collect TCS on that part. So these peculiar things will come, and this blockage of fund will come in the due course, because there is no TCS amount of 1F will be there in those scenarios, because they are B2B transactions. I do not understand what exactly is government looking for, why they are doing it. They said that we are doing it for widening the tax base, we are doing it for collection of the information, but I do not feel that any particular thing will achieve government will achieve out of it. I believe that ideally the provision should be that any person who is registered in GST, because these all numbers which government will automatically get in the GST returns itself, and income tax can share those GST returns, or there was an agreement between the board direct taxes and indirect taxes that they are sharing information. So any B2B transactions where both the parties have a valid GST number, then I believe this provision should not be applicable. This should be applicable only in those cases where the seller is selling goods to a person who is an unregistered person, so that the government will get to know about these people, that who is making payment of 50 lakhs rupees or more to the person and who are not registered in GST. So let us investigate who are these people are. So those will be a more rational provision rather than making entire industry suffer because of this levy of this. Now this is have happened, and we have to accept the fact that we have to accept this particular transaction, and we have to accept this levy itself. Now what is the option available practically with the companies? So there are 2-3 options which will come, which I think you can suggest, or we as a fraternity can suggest to our clients. The first option and the foremost option is that let us see whatever being received on or after 1st October liable for TCS collection, and whatever received is deemed to be an inclusive of 0.01%, and reverse calculate the amount, compute the amount received during the month and pay it to the government next month. And whatever is the amount of TCS what we have determined, create a debit note of the same and pay and raise the debit note on the party, showing him that this is an amount what you have paid me, and out of this amount I have treat this 0.01% as TCS. Hence, you also book the corresponding amount as your advance tax paid by way of a TCS, and so that our ledgers got matched. But I believe the person who is making payment may not be willing to put everything in place in a one go. He may say, okay, we will reconcile the things at the end of the year, and then I will also reconcile the figure from my 26 AS, and if this is being reflected properly in my 26 AS, then only I will book it as an advanced TCS given by me. Otherwise, I will not do it. There was second scenario what one of my client have adopted. So they said what they have done is they said that any party whom they have made sale exceeding rupees 50 lakhs in the previous year. So they presume in the current year also they will make the sale exceeding rupees 50 lakhs. On the same assumption, and SAP is supporting this particular view, they said that at the time of raising the bill itself, they will include 0.1% in the bill itself. They said, okay, this is the gross consideration price, add GST, total bill value, add a TCS at the rate of 0.1%, and they will include the TCS in the bill itself and send it to the client, and client will then have to record this this particular thing. But there is a problem to it. So suppose I have made a sale to the client on, let's say, 1st of November 2020, amounting rupees 75 lakhs. Assuming there is no other sale, nothing is there, and the party pays me the amount on 5th of April. Then out of this 75 lakhs on the bill itself, I have added the TCS on the entire 75 lakh rupees as 0.1. But the person is making payment next year on 5th of April, and he is entitled for an exemption of 50 lakh rupees. Then TCS has to be collected on 25 lakh. But however, the data is booked in my books as well as in the client book, which is inflated by 0.1%. So there was a mismatch of the debtors, and I do not know how the auditors will see this at the time of signing of the balance sheet. They are saying your debtors are overinflated by this 0.1%. And you can say, sir, debtors of one of the PSU is about 2 lakh crore. So as an auditor of that PSU, I do not know on the 2 lakh crore debtor how much, if everything is inflated by 0.1%, whether it gives a true and fair view or not, that's again a question that needs to be checked. Then there is another client of mine. What they did was they said that, okay, whatever payment I have received on that particular day, on or after 1st of October, they presume this entire payment towards the debtors itself. And on the same day, they collect they calculate the 0.1% of TCS on that amount and raises a debit note on the same day to the client. That on this payment received, we presume that this is the TCS applicable, and we are raising a bill of TCS on you and adding this amount to the debtors in our books. You also add this amount in the creditor, but this 0.1% of the receipt, we are paying it to the government as the TCS. So this is another view which clients are adopting, whereby it is a bit easy that, okay, there is no reverse calculation involved in it. Whatever they receive, they put it as a 0.1% of this amount as a TCS, paid to the government immediately next month, and similar amount of debit note they are using it on the client. That is what exactly is going on. So this is the third treatment what generally companies are adopting. May be correct, may not be correct, but it was certainly blockage of extra money in the payment of TCS in this particular kind of a stuff. The fourth problem, which is again a very big problem which have come up, is how to reconcile the receipt with the billed amount for the GST purposes. Because GST department will again also come and say that your turnover is 1000 crore, but you have received 1005 crore. So why you have not paid GST on this excess 5 crore received from the client? So there may be another issue which will come up in the future time, that GST department might come and say that on the TCS collected from the client, you pay GST on this also. So this is another problem which might come in future, but still we have to deal with this in our going times. So these are some possible, probable suggestions what we can make to our clients in order to comply with this provision. I think this is the provision I have covered squarely with the respect of mainly controversies that we have as on date. Now let us discuss with the question answer session if you have, and then we will come again with any other part which is left.
Thank you, Avinashji. Regarding the last part, you said that the GST on TCS, I think CBIC has issued a circular stating that TCS is an interim levy and therefore GST need not be levied on TCS.
I have not seen it, sir.
Yes, it has come, and in our groups we had a discussion on this. I'll try to forward this. I'll ask my GST committee chairman to forward that to you, but I think it has already come. And now we go to the chat box. I'll just read out the questions.
Sir, one more levy which have started from today on LRS that I want to talk about after the questions.
Okay.
Because this is also an important levy which have started from today itself.
Okay. One question is how TCS will work in B2C transactions.
So in the B2C transaction, whatever if you have received from the customer exceeding rupees 50 lakh during the year, then you are liable to collect TCS. So in all B2C transactions, I have already given you example of Mercedes. I have already given you example of an Audi or a house being purchased.
Okay. And turnover for March ending is 9.9 crores. I think you have replied to that question. Sales without GST or GST, you already replied to that question as well. PSU, where government is having controlling stake, will it come under central government by
No,
any chance?
I have already covered.
You already answered that. Is TCS need to be charged on sale bill? I think you said it can be charged by way of sale bill as well as by issuance of debit notes.
Correct.
And LRS, you are about to speak, so I don't take the question right now. Limit of 10 crore, that already you have said. Now, one question I had, that supposing that in case of a 100% export oriented unit, their exports collection is outside this ambit. But so far as the purchases are concerned, we have a concept called deemed export. So deemed export, all these, when I buy material, will it be treated for my sellers to treat this as a deemed export?
No, sir, no.
No?
So that I have already covered for SEZ also at 100% EU also.
Yes.
From the income tax perspective, you are still remain as a resident in India.
Okay. Okay.
Kamal Agarwal ji have asked whether export turnover is included. It's a very good question. So Kamal ji is asking that I think I forgot to tell you about this. So they are asking from the perspective of 10 crores. So for example, an SSC is there who is having turnover in India amounting rupees 2 crore and he have an export turnover of 15 crore. So whether he comes under the threshold of 10 crores or not, answer is yes, he is covered.
If any other question, people may unmute and ask.
Sir, Kamal Way is there. I'll ask him.
Kamalji, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, as far as the reconciliation is concerned, I don't think that there will be any issues with the reconciliation, because the remittance which they are receiving, that is the part that is the collection with the GST. On the remittance, the TCS is being collected, and as far as GST reconciliation is concerned, that is concerning with the GSTR 9 and GSTR 9C. In that case, the gross amount has nothing to do with the turnover, basically. the gross amount received, including that TCS has nothing to do with the turnover, if I am not wrong.
Sir, I just give you an example. Sir, I am selling goods and I am selling goods, let's say to a party amounting rupees 60 lakhs, on which I have already charged the GST. And the bill also says the freight, which I have claimed it as a reimbursement of expenses, which is again liable for GST. And the third thing which I am collecting is TCS. So think of a company. So these are not small businesses. So this is applicable on big businesses, sir, where the total number of sale bills, the total number of debit notes, credit notes runs in thousands and lakhs. So with these lakhs of transactions, and one other problem in the SAP system is you cannot delete it. So if the total number of transactions in SAP is 1 lakh, then out of 1 lakh, 25,000 transactions are reversals. So if you
Yeah, agree.
then you have to reverse it. So think from
Sir, agree, completely agree. But as far as TCS is concerned, the TCS need to be collected on the remittance only. How can we build it in the invoice itself?
So they have said that the SAP have also provided this solution, and I think Oracle have also provided today morning this solution. They said that it is not amount billed. It is basically in the bill you have written below the GST total amount that this is the amount of TCS being collectible, and this collectible account they have created a specific head which is TCS collectible account, and this amount of TCS collectible will go to that particular account. Whenever you are receiving the payment, the again system will hit an entry to this collectible amount, and this amount of that amount actually collected will be reduced from that collectible amount and transferred to a payable account. So this is how we should do. Sir, please understand from the perspective, we want a system which is human free. The system automatically should work. So the system should apply its artificial intelligence to it. So you and me cannot sit in a company and match each and every entry. So for making such a system is really very difficult task.
Sir, why not when the collection is made, we do the back calculation of 0.1%?
So that is one option. I have already told you that is there. But how you will give the benefit of 50 lakhs? So either you say that whatever collection received, whether 1 rupee or 2 rupee or 100 lakh, 100 crore, I will collect 0.1% in all cases. Then put a formula in your system, say that whatever amount received is deemed to be 99.9%. Remaining 1% is always deemed to be TCS. So if you want to do like this, you can do this. But I believe the buyer will not agree to it. If somebody is making payment to you amounting to rupees 45 lakhs, 46 lakh or 49 lakhs, he will say that why you are collecting TCS on my behalf.
Sir, buyer will even don't agree. That you have already told that the debit notes, they will not agree until and unless it is credited in the 26 A's. So buyer is not going to agree.
So this is buyer have to agree that you goes.
In case of stock exchange transactions, you said they have allowed a exemption that if the payment is received from stock exchange and paid to stock exchange, that will not apply. Correct. Now, in case of investors, the investors are not directly receiving payments from stock exchange. They are receiving through brokers. Yes, so now supposing that I am dealing with my broker and my transaction with the broker, purchase transactions are more than 50 lakhs.
So then it is not goods, na?
It's not goods. But it shares, no, supposing I buy shares, listed company shares, not F&O.
Sir, in that case, I believe that stock broker is only an agent of the stock exchange, and he is doing this transaction on behalf of stock exchange.
Yes, so that analogy
it may squarely be covered by the circular saying that because stock exchange do not make direct payment to me, they make payment to me through the broker. Hence, this entire benefit of the stock exchange transaction can be awarded to a broker also. That is my personal view, sir.
And
because stock exchange do not make direct payment to me.
Agreed.
Or and even I do not make payment directly to the stock exchange.
Right. That is why I raised this question. So for clarity's sake,
I think we should take him as a part and parcel of stock exchange itself.
And in case of sale of unlisted shares, supposing company to company, I think it is applicable because unlisted shares are goods.
Sir, I think, sir, I have a doubt here. There is a different.
No, I also understand your because if I might be holding that as an investment and that will not even go to my sales.
Yes.
That might go to sale of investments.
Sir, I think the question here is the moot question is whether shares are goods or not. So I think we should deliberate more on whether shares can be treated as goods or not. So I personally believe there is no judgment as on date, because indirect tax department have never tried to levy GST or VAT or excise on shares. So that's why this particular issue have never been dealt. So they try to levy tax on the power. So we have a Supreme Court judgment about power, because again, I have my own reservation whether power is a good. Can you store that power? Can you take that power anywhere? So I think that power should not be treated as goods. So I think shares should not also be regarded as goods. So this is my personal view. But even if somebody believes that shares is goods, then in that case, I feel whenever there is a sale of shares, if it is from non-resident, then 195 is applicable. Then also you are out of it because of the proviso. Only when resident to resident sale is there, then in that case, somebody remotely talk about it. But my suggestion is don't tell to any income tax person, otherwise he will definitely say that he will. But now it's faceless.
Sanjeev has a question. Sanjeev.
अविनाश जी, thank you so much for choosing such a pertinent topic. मेरा बहुत simple question. I'm not sure whether it was covered during the presentation or not. If I want to invest in a company where I'm a resident director outside India, so is TCS applicable on that?
Sir, making investment is not a consideration for sale of goods.
Okay.
So if you see the language itself is any amount received as a consideration. I think you joined late 2 or 3 minutes. I have started with this, that when I receive a loan transaction, when I receive a share capital, it is not consideration for sale of goods.
No, sir, if I'm making the investment.
One and the same thing, na, sir. When you are making the investment, you are not making the investment for the consideration of sale of goods.
Correct.
So hence it is out of the entire transaction. और आप जो सर सूप पी रहे थे वो बहुत अच्छा है. मैंने भी वर्चुअली किया आपके साथ.
मेरे को लगा ये छूट गया, ये मैं अभी एप्लीकेबल होने वाला, मैंने कहा कि डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन पूछ के क्लियर कर लें.
Kamal Bogdati ji has raised his hand.
Kamal ji have raised an hand.
Yeah.
Sir, one thing I want to ask with relating to Sanjeev Sanghi, which he has asked one question.
Yes, sir,
That the foreign remittance with respect to the investment made outside, whether it will come on the LRS.
सर वो भी मैं अभी बात करता हूँ सर LRS का, because I have not touched the LRS part, because there are 2-3 things, and I have a discussion with one of the bank also where they have issued a circular on this part which is wrong. So I am in consultation. I request you all also to look into the LRS part. He is talking not from the LRS perspective, he is talking from the 206C 1H perspective. But LRS,
Yeah, definitely, but it might be correlated with that actually.
I will confirm you, sir. Just give me
Yeah,
5
yeah,
minutes.
yeah. Thank you.
1H part first, and then we'll move to LRS.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I think Avinash ji, we do not have any more questions right now. You can continue with LRS.
Giridhar Saab have a question. Our deputy convener Saab.
Sir, we have discussed about shares, but as far as some entities who deals in bonds like AK Capital and all those, they buy the bonds for banks and means, as their client and sell to other clients. So what they do, as the one purchaser does not know to the seller, they buy all these bonds in their own books and later on sales means, to the other client as a purchase and sale transaction. So maybe shares are not goods. So again, bonds may not be the goods or not, that clarity I want. So whether they buy supposedly 10 crores of shares and sell 10 crores, 5 lakhs. So 5 lakh is only their income or turnover, whatever. So whether TCS is applicable on 10 crore or 5 lakhs or at all not applicable.
Sir, let me rephrase the question first. Sir, you are saying, first of all, that they are buying and selling the bonds first. And out of this buying and selling, they might be charging certain difference, which might be regarded as commission, which might be regarded as service charges, which might be regarded as margin. Is it so?
Sir, they do not charge it like commission or service charges. They do it like buy and sell transactions.
Okay. So they buy it at 98 rupees and sell it at 100 rupees like this?
Correct.
So then it is simply buying and selling of the bonds. And to all my humble opinion, that bonds are not to be regarded as goods.
Okay.
In any case. If bonds are not regarded as goods, then I believe that they are out of the provision of 206C 1H itself.
Question does not arise.
question does not arise.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. So in this particular transaction, I believe that you can safely say that this is not regarded as transaction covered in this scheme. हाँ जी सर, आगे चले.
हाँ जी, please.
Sir, can I move to the LRS part?
Yes, yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sir, what exactly is the provision is that from today onwards, every bank or AD, authorized dealer 1, 2, 3, who is liable to pay the foreign currency for you, or who want to remit the money on your behalf to outside India, if the money is being repatriated under the LRS scheme of FEMA, then and if it exceeds 7.5 lakh rupees, then bank is liable to collect TCS at the rate of 1%. So बैंक के ऊपर ये जिम्मेदारी है, आपके जो मनी एक्सचेंजर्स हैं जितने, उनके ऊपर ये जिम्मेदारी है, वेस्टर्न यूनियन, मनी ट्रांसफर and all these people who are making these transactions on your behalf. So if you are making payment only in the case of LRS, agar if somebody is making payment or is making repatriation other than LRS, then in those cases this provision is not applicable at all. Now the question comes, what are the other transactions and what is the meaning of LRS as prescribed under the FEMA Act? अब सर पहले हम बात करते हैं कि LRS है क्या और उसके अलावा क्या होती है. Sir, under FEMA we have two kinds of transaction. One is the capital account transaction, another is the current account transaction. So all capital account transactions are prohibited unless specifically allowed, and all current account transactions are allowed unless specifically prohibited. So ये सर हमारे दो golden rule होते हैं under FEMA. इन दोनों rule का exception है LRS. So anything which is covered under LRS is overriding these both golden rules. So आप किसी भी prohibited transaction की payment LRS के through कर सकते हैं, चाहे वो capital account transaction हो, चाहे वो current account transaction हो. Both the things can be made under the LRS scheme. Presently, under the LRS scheme, the limit prescribed is $2.5 lakh per person per annum. So $2.5 lakh तक आप जो हैं per annum payment कर सकते हैं. So that is allowed under the LRS scheme. That payment may be for the current account transaction. That payment may be for capital account transaction. So अभी कमल जी ने मेरे से पूछा कि मैंने investment करी, I have made an investment outside India, or a reverse case, I have received an investment in India. दोनों चीजें हैं सर. So first of all, sir, please take note of it. LRS scheme is only towards the making payment outside India. So whenever a person is receiving money from outside India, it is not covered under LRS scheme. तो वो LRS scheme का part नहीं है. LRS is only for the purpose of making payment outside India. So meaning thereby, अगर foreign से India में पैसा आया, किसी भी purpose से आया, चाहे वो आपको gift आया, चाहे आपको share capital आई, चाहे loan आया, which is called ECB, या कोई और purpose से आया, तो इस particular transaction को हम LRS कह ही नहीं सकते. And bank is not liable to collect TCS on this particular transaction. तो जो जितने भी inflow वाली transaction है इंडिया में, उसके ऊपर किसी तरह का कोई TCS की applicability नहीं है. So please note of it that on receipt of money there is no TCS. अब हम चलते हैं पेमेंट के ऊपर सर. अब जब हम पेमेंट करते हैं, so पेमेंट जब हम आउटसाइड इंडिया करने जाते हैं, तो पेमेंट may be of a capital account transaction which is generally ODI transaction. It may be a refund of FDI. किसी कंपनी ने बाहर से मेरे अंदर पैसा लगाया इंडिया में और अब मैं उसकी शेयर कैपिटल वापस कर रहा हूँ. रिफंड ऑफ लोन, कोई ECB मैंने ली और उसका मैं रिफंड कर रहा हूँ. इट मे बी इन रिफंड और पेमेंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, उस ECB के ऊपर मैं इंटरेस्ट पे कर रहा हूँ, वो भी मेरी एक आउटसाइड इंडिया जाएगी, जिसके लिए मेरे को बैंक के पास जाना पड़ेगा डॉलर्स खरीदने के लिए या फॉरेन करेंसी बाय करने के लिए. और इसके अलावा LRS ट्रांजेक्शंस हैं which will be for any purposes, चाहे मेडिकल के लिए हो, चाहे एजुकेशन के लिए हो, चाहे ट्रेवल के लिए हो, वो सब्जेक्ट टू दैट लिमिट मैं $2.5 लाख तक पैसा बाहर भेज सकता हूं. मेरे को अपने बच्चे को बाहर पढ़ाने भेजना है, मुझे अपने बच्चे के लिए कोई मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट करना है, मेरे खुद के पेरेंट्स के लिए मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट करना है, या किसी भी पर्पस से मेरी सिस्टर रहती है बाहर आउट ऑफ इंडिया, उसको मुझे पैसा भेजना है अंडर गिफ्ट और एनी अदर स्कीम, मैं कोई फॉरेन कॉलेज में पढ़ता था, मेरे को उसको एलुमनाई के लिए पैसा भेजना है, मेरे को उसके कॉलेज के लिए पैसा भेजना है, कोई ट्रस्ट के लिए पैसा भेजना है, कोई डोनेशन के लिए पैसा भेजना है, दीज ऑल आर कवर्ड अंडर दी LRS स्कीम। सो अगर इस पर्टिकुलर LRS के लिए मुझे पैसा भेजना है देन, और वो पैसा 7.5 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा है, देन ओनली बैंक विल कलेक्ट TCS। अब आया क्वेश्चन कि सर मुझे शेयर्स ऑफ एन कंपनी लोकेटेड आउटसाइड इंडिया के लिए पैसा भेजना है। सो मैं किसी बाहर किसी कंपनी के शेयर्स में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहता हूं, मैं दुबई में कंपनी खोलना चाहता हूं, मैं सिंगापुर में कंपनी खोलना चाहता हूं, तो सर मैं आपसे ये क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा कि आप ये जो कंपनी का पैसा है ये ODI ओवरसीज डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट में भेज रहे हैं या LRS में भेज रहे हैं? अगर आप ODI के थ्रू पैसा भेजोगे तो कोई TCS नहीं है। आप ये पैसा LRS के अंडर स्कीम में भेजोगे तो आपको TCS कलेक्ट करेगा बैंक, अगर वो 7.5 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा है। सर प्लीज माइंड दिस पर्टिकुलर सेंटेंस, क्योंकि आज एक बैंक वालों ने सर्कुलर इशू किया जिसमें उन्होंने कहा कि जितनी फॉरेन रेमिटेंस करनी है सबके ऊपर TCS कलेक्ट होगा। इवन उन्होंने कहा कि जो हम परचेज सेल ट्रांजैक्शन कर रहे हैं, इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट ट्रांजैक्शन जो A2 फॉर्म के अगेंस्ट जा रही है, उन पे भी TCS कलेक्ट करना है। दिस इज एन सर्कुलर व्हिच हैव बीन given by one of the bank. I do not want to name that bank, but I have challenged it to the bank higher officials and they have withdrawn it. I don't know अभी तक करा है नहीं करा, but they have promised me that they will withdraw it and put it specifically on the LRS part. So ऐसे तो सर सारी ट्रांजैक्शन जितनी भी हम करेंगे, जितने भी हम इंपोर्ट के लिए पेमेंट करेंगे, सबके ऊपर बैंक कलेक्ट कर लेगा? आंसर इज नो, दिस इज नॉट LRS. First of all, LRS is applicable only on resident in India. तो नॉन रेजिडेंट के ऊपर LRS नहीं लगता। तो जैसे हमारे यहाँ $2.5 लाख की स्कीम है, इसी तरह नॉन रेजिडेंट के लिए $1 मिलियन स्कीम है। आज मेरे पास 2 नॉन रेजिडेंट्स का पैसा कॉल आया। पहले वो पिछले एक हफ्ते से दे आर वेरी स्ट्रगलिंग रियली वेरी हार्ड टू गेट देयर मनी बैक टू देयर कंट्रीज, बिकॉज उनको बैंक ने बोला कि हम 1 तारीख से TCS कलेक्ट करेंगे आपके इस पैसे पे। नो TCS सर, बिकॉज NRIs जितने हैं हमारे आउटसाइड इंडिया या जितने भी नॉन रेजिडेंट्स हैं, व्हेन दे टेक मनी आउट फ्रॉम देयर ओन बैंक अकाउंट, जितने वो NRO अकाउंट से या जो भी उनके जो NPR अकाउंट्स हैं या NRE अकाउंट है, जितने भी अकाउंट्स हैं, उससे जब वो पैसा लेके जा रहे हैं, दे आर नॉट टेकिंग मनी अंडर द LRS स्कीम, दे आर टेकिंग मनी आउट अंडर द $1 मिलियन स्कीम विच इज सेपरेट फ्रॉम द LRS। तो बैंक को ये आपको समझाना पड़ेगा कि भाई साहब ये पैसा हम LRS में नहीं लेके जा रहे, ये पैसा हम $1 मिलियन में लेके जा रहे हैं और $1 मिलियन स्कीम के ऊपर कोई TCS नहीं है। सो ये आपको समझाना पड़ेगा कि अब इसमें बहुत सारे हमारे NRIs हैं, उनकी प्रॉपर्टीज हैं यहाँ पे। अब वो कह रहे हैं कि जब हम प्रॉपर्टी सेल करेंगे तो पहले प्रॉपर्टी सेल करने में वो 22% तो टैक्स वो बायर काट लेगा जो खरीदेगा, उसके बाद जब बैंक में आएंगे तो बैंक कहेगा 1% मेरे को TCS दे दो। ये तो बहुत जाती है। तो उनको समझाना पड़ेगा कि सर ये आपके ऊपर TCS नहीं कटेगा बिकॉज इट इज नॉट अंडर LRS। हाँ, अगर गोयल साहब मेरे को पैसा भेजना चाहे आउटसाइड इंडिया तो इनको LRS में 1% देना पड़ेगा बिकॉज इट इज प्योर LRS। सिमिलरली मैं ODI में कोई पैसा बाहर भेजना चाहूं तो मुझे कोई 1% TCS नहीं देना। मैं अगर किसी ECB की रीपेमेंट कर रहा हूं उसके लिए मुझे कोई TCS नहीं देना। मैं कोई FDI का पैसा आया था और उसको रिफंड कर रहा हूं, कोई मुझे TCS नहीं देना। मैं कोई इंटरेस्ट की पेमेंट कर रहा हूं, कोई TCS नहीं देना। मैं किसी भी तरह का कोई इंपोर्ट की पेमेंट कर रहा हूं, कोई TCS नहीं दे रहा। बट मैं टूर पैकेज बुक करा रहा हूं, मैं कोई फॉरेन एयरलाइन में कोई बुकिंग करा रहा हूं और वो टूर पैकेज की डेफिनेशन में नहीं आता। वैसे तो टूर पैकेज पे भी उन्होंने जो है TDS और TCS लगाया है, बट मैं डायरेक्टली बुकिंग कर रहा हूं और उसके लिए मैंने बैंक को कहा कि प्लीज भेज दो। उन्होंने कहा कितना भेजना? 10 लाख रुपए। तो देन इट इज कवर्ड अंडर LRS। मैं कोई मेडिकल एक्सपेंडिचर बाहर के लिए पैसा बाहर भेज रहा हूं, उस मेडिकल एक्सपेंडिचर इज ट्रीटेड एज LRS। मैं अपने बच्चे को फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाने के लिए पैसा बाहर भेज रहा हूं, then I am also liable to give TCS to the government under this provision because these are all covered under LRS. So मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है कि LRS को प्लीज ध्यान से पढ़ें RBI के सर्कुलर के हिसाब से कि what is LRS and what is not LRS। तो जो LRS की डेफिनेशन में कवर्ड है सिर्फ उसके ऊपर TCS कलेक्ट होना है, अदर देन दैट के ऊपर आपको TCS देने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है। बट क्योंकि बैंक में लोगों को पता नहीं है, दे आर नॉट वेरी यूज्ड टू विद द टैक्सेशन लॉ, देन वी हैव टू टेल देम अपफ्रंटली दैट दिस TCS इज एप्लीकेबल ओनली इन केस ऑफ LRS। और जब बैंक आपको ऑप्शन दे टू LRS और विदाउट LRS, ऑलवेज गो फॉर नॉन LRS, अदरवाइज आपके LRS में वो आपका TCS कलेक्ट कर लेगा 1% का। तो वो आप उसको जो है वो ध्यान में रखते हुए ये LRS की प्रोविजन ध्यान से सर उसको देखिए। अगर इसके ऊपर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आई एम रेडी टू टेक दोस क्वेश्चन।
If there are any questions, please unmute yourself.
अविनाश जी, मैं कमल बगरोडिया फिर से एक बार आपको तंग कर रहा हूँ।
कोई बात नहीं सर,
हाँ।
फीस दिया आज के सेमिनार में।
सर, LRS में जहां तक जो स्कीम है वो 2.5 लाख रुपीस का जो स्कीम है वो 2.5 लाख डॉलर का स्कीम है, करेक्ट?
करेक्ट।
एंड दैट अमाउंट इज वेरी हैंडसम अमाउंट। अर्लियर क्या होता था कि एक जैसे था कि हमारे NRO अकाउंट में अगर रुपया पड़ा हुआ है तो हम NRE अकाउंट में आराम से उस रुपया को ट्रांसफर कर सकते थे और 15 CACB ज्यादा से ज्यादा बैंक को जमा देना पड़ता था।
बिल्कुल सही है।
अब मेरे ख्याल से जो मेरे को जो समझ में आया, आप बताएंगे कि NRE अकाउंट से अगर NRO से अगर NRE में अगर देता हूं मैं रुपया तो मेरे ख्याल से उस पर TCS कटेगा।
नहीं कटेगा सर, एक मिनट। पहली चीज सर, पहली बात तो जब आपका NRO अकाउंट है आपके SSC का तो वो नॉन रेजिडेंट हुआ,
करेक्ट?
रेजिडेंट तो हो ही नहीं सकता, नॉन रेजिडेंट है तभी उसका NRO और NRE है।
ठीक है।
LRS का पहले ही लाइन पढ़ेंगे तो LRS इज ओनली एंड ओनली फॉर रेजिडेंट्स इन इंडिया, LRS इज नॉट फॉर नॉन रेजिडेंट्स। नॉन रेजिडेंट के लिए सेपरेट $1 मिलियन स्कीम है। तो जब आप NRO से NRE में पैसा ट्रांसफर करेंगे तो आप LRS में थोड़ी ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं पैसा, आप तो $1 मिलियन स्कीम में कर रहे हैं। तो जब और लॉ कहता है एप्लीकेबिलिटी इज ओनली ऑन LRS,
करेक्ट?
तो जब LRS में आप पैसा ही नहीं मांग रहे बैंक से तो वो बैंक कैसे TCS कलेक्ट करेगा? सर यही तो मैं इतनी देर से आपको समझा रहा हूँ।
तो वो 15 CACB देना पड़ेगा फिर।
CACB सेपरेट।
हाँ,
सर CACB तो देना पड़ेगा, वो तो सिर्फ टैक्स पेड मनी है या नहीं है, उसका सोर्स ऑफ मनी क्या है, वो उसके पर्पज से है। अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं बैंक के पर्सपेक्टिव से कि बैंक TCS कलेक्ट करेगा। आंसर इज यस, अगर वो LRS में कवर्ड है। सर इसका रीजन मैं बता देता हूँ आपको क्या हुआ सर, अब आप अंदर की बात सुनो सर क्या हुआ। सर पिछले 3 साल से गवर्नमेंट जो है LRS को ट्रैक कर रही है। सर LRS में टोटल साल में आज से 4 साल पहले 8,000 करोड़ रुपए जाता था इंडिया से, which have increased to 19,000 crore in the financial year 18-19। 18-19 में 19,000 करोड़ रुपए इंडिया से गया अंडर LRS स्कीम। बाकी सारी स्कीमें छोड़ दो, $1 मिलियन स्कीम छोड़ दो, ओनली अंडर LRS they have received, they got an information कि that 19,000 crores have been gone under LRS। अब उन्होंने कहा कि चलो जी इन्वेस्टिगेट करते हैं ये किन बंदों ने पैसा भेजा और क्यों भेजा। सर LRS में जब पैसा जाता है तो बैंक आपसे सिर्फ पासपोर्ट की कॉपी मांगता है, या जो आपके मनी एक्सचेंजर है वो आपसे पासपोर्ट की कॉपी मांगते हैं। तो 19,000 करोड़ रुपीस जो गए उसके उनको पासपोर्ट दे दिए गए। अब पासपोर्ट में जब वो देखा गया पैन नंबर तो था नहीं किसी का। अगर आप देखेंगे तो इस साल आपकी रिटर्न में पासपोर्ट नंबर देना मैंडेटरी हो गया है। तो वो इस LRS के चक्कर में ही किया गया। तो बैंक इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट के पास ऐसा कोई डेटा नहीं है कि अविनाश गुप्ता का पैन नंबर A है और उसका पासपोर्ट नंबर A से लिंक्ड भी है। देयर इज नो लिंकिंग बिटवीन द पासपोर्ट एंड द पैन नंबर। तो वो लिंक ही नहीं कर पा रहे। इस 19,000 करोड़ रुपए में से लगभग 14,500 करोड़ ऐसा था जिसको इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट वाले ट्रेस ही नहीं कर पाए ये बंदे है कौन। दे हैव सेंड नोटिसेस टू ऑल द एड्रेसेस। अब पासपोर्ट मेरा 10 साल पहले बना या 8 साल पहले बना या 6 साल पहले बना, उसमें एक्स एड्रेस था। अब मैंने घर चेंज कर लिया क्योंकि मैं जाता नहीं हूँ फ्रीक्वेंटली, इसलिए पासपोर्ट में एड्रेस चेंज नहीं कराया। या जो मैंने उसको कॉपी दी बैंक को वो पुराने पासपोर्ट की दे दी, पुराने एड्रेस की दे दी, उस पे हो गया, या जो भी रीजन था। सो इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट इज अनेबल टू ट्रेस those 14,500 about 14,500 crores people जिन्होंने वो रेमिटेंस करी, तो ये डिपार्टमेंट ये देखना चाहता है ये 14,000 करोड़ जो इंडिया के बाहर गया ये कौन लोग हैं, ये टैक्स पेयर है नॉन टैक्स पेयर है, कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है रिटर्न भरता हूँ 2.5 लाख रुपए की और एलआरएस में पैसा भेज रहा हूँ 1 करोड़ रुपए। So only for that perspective they come up with this provision कि एलआरएस में पैसा कहां से भेजोगे, या तो बैंक से भेजोगे या आप किसी मनी एक्सचेंजर से भेजोगे या किसी या वेस्टर्न यूनियन से भेजोगे, तो इनके ऊपर लगा दिया चेक कि 7.5 लाख से ज्यादा अगर आप किसी का भी पैसा भेजोगे तो टीसीएस कलेक्ट कर लेना। अल्टीमेट ऑब्जेक्टिव इज नॉट दैट 1% टीसीएस, द ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू ऑब्टेन द इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ पीपल हु इज सेंडिंग
फोन है तुम्हारा
with the amount of money they are sending under the LRS. And why only LRS? Sir, why not $1 million scheme? Because $1 million scheme is for non-residents. So non-resident को they are not bothered about taxing those non-residents. They are bothered about Indian resident जो इंडिया में रहते हैं, ordinary resident है, वो कहां से पैसा लाए, जरा पता तो चले कि किस कहां से उनका पैसा जनरेट हो। So that was an objective of putting this transaction, और उसके पीछे से पूरा डेटा है वो उनका नहीं हो पा रहा। और पासपोर्ट नंबर आपके रिटर्न में इसलिए मांगा गया है इस बार कि पासपोर्ट नंबर जैसे ही आपने दिया उनके पास पासपोर्ट नंबर पुरानी एलआरएस के हैं, तो वो उससे लिंक करके पता तो चला ये 14,500 करोड़ रुपए वाले लोग कौन है। तो दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव आस्क्ड यू सर, ये ना ड्यूअल इफेक्ट के तहत उन्होंने ये काम किया है। ये मुझे सर लास्ट ईयर ही पता चल गया था कि ये कुछ ना कुछ करेंगे, बिकॉज आई यूज्ड टू गिव अ प्रेजेंटेशन टू दी प्रिंसिपल कमिश्नर एंड कमिश्नर ऑफ इनकम टैक्स ऑन द बजट, तो वहां पे देयर वाज अ डिस्कशन अबाउट दिस एलआरएस स्कीम इन डिटेल, तो उन्होंने एक बड़ा डिटेल में बताया हमें कि इस तरह की चीजें हो रही हैं, तो दीज काइंड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स आर देयर, तो उसी के पर्सपेक्टिव से ये जो है प्रोविजन आया है। बट अब ये हमारी ड्यूटी बनती है कि हम अपने क्लाइंट्स को और बैंक को एडवाइस करें कि किसके ऊपर टीसीएस काटना है और किसके ऊपर नहीं काटना, क्योंकि आप ये देख के मान के चलना सर, आगे अगर आपके एलआरएस में पैसा गया है, मान लीजिए आपने 1 करोड़ रुपए भेजा है और रिटर्न भरी आपने 15 लाख रुपए की, 10 लाख रुपए की, तो आपका केस स्कूटनी में आएगा ही आएगा, और आपका स्टैंडर्ड लिमिटेड स्कूटनी में क्वेश्चन ये पूछेंगे कि भाई साहब ये 1 करोड़ रुपए आपने भेजा है, रिटर्न भर रहे हो 5 लाख की, 7 लाख की, 10 लाख की, पैसा आया कहां से? जेन्युइन हो सकता है सर, आपने जो है गोयल साहब से लोन लिया 50 लाख रुपए और अपने बेटे के पढ़ाई के लिए 50 लाख रुपए एलआरएस में भेज दिए, जेन्युइन ट्रांजैक्शन आ देयर। मैं कह रहा हूं सर इससे और आगे चलता हूं, सर आपने एक एजुकेशन लोन अप्लाई किया, उस एजुकेशन लोन को बैंक ने डिसबर्स करके सीधा फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटी को भेज दिया, अब उसके ऊपर भी जो है उसको जो है टीसीएस कलेक्ट करना पड़ेगा बैंक को। तो अगर आपने जो है, क्योंकि ये बैंक क्या करता है, पहले आपके एक पूल अकाउंट में इस लोन को डिसबर्स करता है, फिर आपके पूल अकाउंट से ये रेमिटेंस करता है, तो इसलिए वो भी आपको जो है टीसीएस कलेक्ट होगा उस पर, बिकॉज वो भी एलआरएस का पार्ट होता है, इवन इफ यू आर टेकिंग लोन, एजुकेशन लोन फ्रॉम द बैंक। तो ये प्रोविजन है सर।
एंड आई थिंक कमल जी, एनआरओ से एनआरई में ले जाने में तो 15 सीएसीबी भी नहीं लगेगा, बिकॉज एनआरई से एनआरओ में ले जाने में हो सकता है बैंक मांगता हो, बट एनआरओ से एनआरई में 15 सीएसीबी विल नॉट बी रिक्वायर्ड।
सर मैंने आपको अभी मेल किया है प्रेसिडेंट सर,
हाँ,
मैंने आपको अभी मेल कर दिया है, एक बार थोड़ा सा देखिएगा। एज पर द आरबीआई रिक्वायरमेंट दे आर आस्किंग फॉर 15 सी एंड सी।
एनआरओ टू एनआरई और एनआरई टू एनआरओ, एनआरई टू एनआरओ और एनआरओ टू एनआरई,
एनआरओ टू एनआरई, एनआरओ टू एनआरई, एनआरई टू एनआरओ में तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है, बिकॉज that is the remittance is being made by the individual itself. Anything coming from the NRE, the bank doesn't have any problem, the country doesn't have any problem, but whenever anything is going out, then they have the problem basically. So मैंने आपको मेल किया, एक बार देखिएगा उसको।
अविनाश जी,
कमल जी बिल्कुल मांगते हैं, और स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया में तो एक चेकलिस्ट है पूरी, वो चेकलिस्ट क्लियर टिक करते हैं तभी एनआरओ से एनआरई भेजते हैं। थैंक्स टू आवर गुरु डॉक्टर गिरीश आहूजा जी, जब वो डायरेक्टर थे स्टेट बैंक में तो वो चेकलिस्ट उन्होंने ही बनवाई थी। तो स्टेट बैंक में तो प्रॉपर वो चेकलिस्ट भी भर के देनी होती है, और 15 सीएसीबी भी चाहिए होता है, इवन पेमेंट चाहे 1 लाख रुपए की हो या 1 करोड़ रुपए की हो, वो बिना उसके मांगते ही नहीं है। और अभी मैक्सिमम बैंक्स जो है, इंक्लूडिंग द प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स, दे ऑल आर आस्किंग फॉर 15 सीएसीबी सर्टिफिकेट्स। तो वो गोयल साहब, प्रेसिडेंट साहब, गॉन आर द डेज जब बैंक नहीं मांगते थे। अब हो सकता है कोई छोटी छोटी ब्रांचेस जो होती है बैंकों की वो शायद ना मांगे, बट मेजॉरिटी ऑल बैंक्स आर आस्किंग फॉर 15 सीएसीबी। एंड देयर इज
उसके साथ वो लोग यूडेन भी मांग रहे हैं आजकल, तो
यूडिन
बैंक वाले यूडिन भी मांग रहे हैं।
यूडिन तो
तो देना ही पड़ेगा, जब आप साइन
देना ही पड़ेगा, सर्टिफिकेट देंगे तो यूडिन देना ही पड़ेगा।
एंड आई बिलीव सर, आई बिलीव थैंक्स टू Central Council member from your region, Ranjit Agarwal ji, fantastic work on the UDIN. Sir, ये हमें मुसीबत जरूर लगता है रितेश जी, मेरे को तो सब बहुत ज्यादा मुसीबत लगता है. मैं डेली के 200-250 सर्टिफिकेट इशू करता हूँ, तो 250 सर्टिफिकेट के यूडिन जनरेट करने पड़ते हैं मुझे. बट अगेन ये लॉन्ग टर्म में इट इज ऑल बेनिफिशियल फॉर अस. मैं आपको सर प्रैक्टिकली बता सकता हूँ सर इस यूडिन का कितना फायदा हुआ. सर हमारे एक क्लाइंट थे, वो एक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट थे, उनसे जो है वो सर्टिफिकेट साइन करा रहे थे, डिजिटली साइन करा रहे थे. मैं सर क्योंकि 15 CSCB सर्टिफिकेट का बहुत ज्यादा काम करता हूँ, तो सर उनका डिजिटल सिग्नेचर लेके उनके साइन हो रहे थे. बाद में पता चला जब यूडिन आया तो यूडिन में रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं हो रहा. तो देन दिस पर्सन केम टू मी एंड ही सेड कि सर मेरा रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं हो रहा. देन आई चेक इट फ्रॉम द इंस्टीट्यूट एंड आई केम अक्रॉस दैट ही इज हैविंग पार्ट टाइम COP. ही इज नॉट हैविंग फुल टाइम COP, क्योंकि उसका वो एम्प्लॉय था कहीं और. तो सर आप ये देखिए कि पहले ऐसा कोई सिस्टम ही नहीं था और part time COP holder is not authorized to sign anything. He is not authorized to do an attest work, and he is doing it. Lakhs of certificates is being signed by people, chartered accountant like this. वो सब खत्म हो गए. तो बहुत सारे ऐसे हमारे members हैं जो diseased हो चुके हैं, who are no more in the profession, and still people are signing on their behalf in their name. वो सब खत्म हो गया. तो बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे थे जिन्होंने नकली स्टैम्प बनवा के जो है खुद से ही ठप्पा मार रहे थे. अब वो सब खत्म हो गया. तो सर इसका पॉजिटिव साइड देखिए अगर यूडिन की, तो बहुत ही अच्छी चीज इंस्टीट्यूट ने की है कि कम से कम एक ऑथेंटिसिटी तो आई. सर मेरे एक केस में क्या हुआ, हमारे एक क्लाइंट था, उसकी बैलेंस शीट के ऊपर 40 पेजों की बैलेंस शीट थी, लगभग 38 पेजों पे एक जैसी स्टैम्प थी और 2 पेजों पे कोई और स्टैम्प थी. वो 2 नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स में 2 पेज उन्होंने चेंज कर लिए. जब बाद में असेसमेंट में केस आया तो वो बैलेंस शीट दोबारा आई, तब हमने कहा यार ये बाकी सारी स्टैम्प किसी और उसकी साइज की और ये 2 पेजों पे कुछ और साइज है. तब पता चला कि उस क्लाइंट ने स्टैम्प बनवा के रखी हुई थी, जो पेज वो बाद में चेंज कर देता था. तो इस तरह की बहुत सारी चीजें जो है ना सर अब जो है नहीं होंगी. पता चला आपने बैलेंस शीट A साइन करी थी, उसने उसको A को हटाया और अपनी खुद की नई बैलेंस शीट लगा दी और उठा के जो है फाइल कर दिया. एटलीस्ट मैं कह सकता हूँ कि भाई साहब यूडिन में चेक कर लो, फिगर्स तो अलग अलग. There are certain benefits which have been come in, and I think we should support it. And thanks to Ranjit Agarwal ji for doing such a wonderful work for this unit.
Ashish
अविनाश जी, एक
Rastogi
छोटा
ji,
सा-
Ashish
Hello?
Rastogi has raised his hand.
हाँ, sir.
Ashish Rastogi, please unmute.
हाँ सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन था सर कि कुछ क्लाइंट्स हैं जो चैनल फाइनेंसिंग में क्या होता है कि उनका जो वेंडर्स है उनका रजिस्ट्रेशन होता है कुछ चैनल फाइनेंसर्स के साथ. अब उन केसेस में क्या होता है कि जो चैनल फाइनेंसर्स होते हैं, बेसिकली मेरा टर्म्स ऑफ कंसिडरेशन है से 2 months का, बट मैंने चैनल फाइनेंसिंग से पैसा जो है वो 5 days में ले लिया. अल्टीमेटली क्या होता है कि वो 2 months के बाद में वो पार्टी जो होती है, जो वेंडर होती है, वो उसको पेमेंट करती है बैंक को, जो भी उसका अरेंजमेंट होता है. उस केस में TCS जो है वो मेरे को जब बैंक से पैसा मिलेगा तब मेरे को करना चाहिए, या मेरे टर्म्स ऑफ कंडीशन के साथ में जो 2 महीने के बाद का होगा उस समय मेरे को TCS
सर मेरे को एक चीज
का
बताओ,
डिसबर्समेंट करना
अगर मान
चाहिए?
लीजिए पार्टी ने पे नहीं किया,
सर मेरा क्वेरी का समझ. हाँ
सर मैं आप ही की क्वेरी का जवाब
हाँ.
मान लीजिए मैं एक एग्जांपल दूं, सर आपने किसी को 1 करोड़ रुपए का बिल किया और आपने वो बिल डिस्काउंट करा.
हेलो.
तो यू हैव डन अ बिल डिस्काउंटिंग सिंपली.
हाँ
बिल
राइट. हाँ
डिस्काउंटिंग करके आपने बैंक ने आपको 99 लाख रुपए पे कर दिए.
सर, एक्चुअली मेरा कनेक्शन में कोई प्रॉब्लम है, मेरी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही. हेलो हेलो.
Ashish, he is audible. I think आप check करो या तो.
You
He is audible.
get it, log in and log out.
ओके ओके.
अब आ रही है सर आवाज?
हाँ अभी आ रही है.
हाँ जी सर, मैंने आपको एक एग्जांपल दिया कि भाई आपने 1 करोड़ का किसी को सेल किया, सेल के बाद आपने उसकी बिल डिस्काउंटिंग करा ली, चैनल फाइनेंसिंग करा ली या कुछ भी करा लिया और आपने बैंक ने आपको जो है 99 लाख रुपीस आपको वापस दे दिए. आपका अकाउंट ठीक है सर. अज्यूमिंग 90 डेज का क्रेडिट था, 90 डेज के बाद पार्टी ने पेमेंट नहीं करी, तो बैंक क्या करेगा? बैंक आपसे रिकवर करेगा?
सर अब ये वाला जो कि हाँ बैंक मेरे से रिकवर करेगा अगर मेरा, लेकिन अगर वो क्या होता है कि कई अलग अलग अरेंजमेंट्स है सबका वेंडर्स का बैंक के साथ में, तो वो देख मतलब जैसे मैंने अपना बिल डिस्काउंटिंग कराया, जैसे जो एक्सपोर्ट के केसेस में होता है, तो मैं जनरली अपना बिल को डिस्काउंटिंग कराता हूँ। बट ये सब कुछ होते हैं, जैसे बड़ी बड़ी मारुति कंपनीज होती है, इनकी कोई कोटक के या किसी भी एक्सवाइजेड कंपनी के साथ में अरेंजमेंट होता है, तो वो बोलते हैं कि भाई आपके हम जो डेटर्स है उनको फंडिंग कर देंगे जो भी हमारे कंपनी में। अब उसमें
I'm clarifying, Ashish ji. I'm supplementing to your question. Supposing I get my bill discounted on trades or M1 exchange, जिसमें वो एक बार डिस्काउंट करने के बाद में probably they cannot ask for payment from the person who has got it discounted. You mean to say this?
hello
Ashish,
shucks.
are you talking of trades bill discounting? Avinash ji,
Sir, I treated both the scenarios. Let's discuss both the scenarios. So there is one scenario which is a pure financing, and I am getting the money from the financer, whether it is bank or any other financer, whether it is NBFC or so it is merely a financing. And based on that financing, I am getting a finance, and if it is not being payable or something like that, then it has to be reversed. My personal opinion in those cases is that I am not receiving money as a consideration of sale. I am just discounting the bill, and the actual money will follow only when the party pays to the bank or the intermediary or something. Even if they are making payment to the bank, they are making payment on my behalf. So suppose on the 90th day, instead of making payment to the bank, if the person makes payment to me, then I have to make it good to the bank. So in those scenario, in my opinion, TCS needs to be collected on the day of 90th day itself. However, there are certain factoring which is available in the market, whereby they say that they buy the debtors, they buy the bills directly, and you are not concerned about the collection at all.
right.
So they simply buy your bills at a deep discount rate of maybe 5%, 2%, 3%, and then they realize the money themselves. And even if there is a bad debt, it belongs to them only. So in those scenario, I believe that I have received money today itself as a consideration of sale, and in those scenario, I have to collect TCS today itself because it is a consideration for sale. So this is
Fully
my
agreed, sir.
take on this particular two kinds of financing that I can say.
Fully agreed, sir.
Rishi, if
Fully
you want
agreed.
to add something?
No,
on
no,
this.
fully agreed. Fully agreed. Any more questions?
I think I will go for a clarification on this bill discounting also. I'll talk to them and try to get it issued.
Please, please. And Avinash ji, since there are no more questions, how do you see? You just said that their target is not that 0.1% or 0.075%, but particularly on this TCS, the threshold of 10 crores was also not a small sum, and the threshold of 50 lakhs is also not a small sum. To my mind, they are not targeting the collection, meaning the tax net tax base. They are targeting something else. Any idea or any update you can throw on this?
So they are targeting for people who are buying bills from the big companies and goods are going to somewhere else. So those kind of transaction is being triggered with this. And these thresholds, whatever they prescribed, is only a bigger threshold only for the beginning. And you will see in the times to come, this 10 crore threshold will come down to 5 crore ultimately, or maybe it will come down to 2 crore. And this 50 lakh threshold may come to be zero. So it is kind of a tax net what they are creating, that for every transaction you have to pay 0.1% or collect, so that everything gets triggered in the tax net. So all buying, selling of goods, or they may subsequently expand the scope to services also. So it is only the beginning, sir. Because of the beginning, there is a huge hue and cry. And if you see, I link it with the TDS provisions. So initially they started with TDS provision with very limitedly, and now we see that each and every service gets covered under the TCS or TDS provisions. Similarly, for goods, there is no transaction, no service as on date, except the GST one. And GST, we know that if it is, we can change it, we can do anything in the GST. So for keeping all this, Income Tax Department wants to make goods transactions at par with the services transaction.
No, but indirectly speaking, supposing that those parties which are providing merely the bills, if that transaction is subjected to TCS, the case, their case even gets stronger, that the transaction has been subjected to TCS.
No, sir, it is not about the whether argument of TCS is there or not. The only transaction or what is required is the monitoring of the transaction. So, for example, sir, if we take an example of properties, So earlier also, whatever registries we are making, the registrar is asking for the TD, etc., etc. So I know 15, 20 years back, people used to make DDs in cash, or people make DDs from the Dabba companies and going to in front of the registrar and say, sir, this is the DD I am exchanging. And based on that, registrar used to do a registry for the immovable properties. And this have come changed today. The registrar is asking, where is the TDS challan? Show me that TDS have already been deducted and deposited, whether it is 1% or 22%. Without that, he is not making any registry. And immediately in the times to come, sir, I can tell you from my experience and my insight from the department and talking to the department officials, that there will be zero scrutiny in future. So no scrutiny will be there. The moment you go buy a Mercedes card amounting rupees 1 crore rupees, after 7 days you will receive an SMS that under your compliance portal there is a notice. Tell us the sources of finance of this 1 crore, and as per your profiling, we have seen that you have your average income for last 5 years is only 10 lakh rupees. Out of that, you must have accumulated only 50 lakhs in the 5 years, but you have bought a car of 1 crore rupees. Please give me the sources of finance. Then you say that out of 1 crore, I have taken a loan of 90 lakhs. So put it 90 lakhs as a loan, 10 lakhs as a part saving. The department says, yes, I am happy. Go ahead. If somebody will say that I have taken a loan of 25 lakhs and 75 lakhs is from my saving, the department will say, no, how can you do that? Your 5 years average earning is only 50 lakhs. How can there will be a saving of 75 lakhs? Put him in a limited scrutiny only with respect to buying of a car. So this is times to come. You will get to know about all these notices which will come like this. And these days we are receiving lot of notices from the compliance portal that person have FDs, the person have invested in shares, the person have invested in mutual funds, they have purchased properties, bank FDs, etc., etc. So this income tax department in the coming times is going like this digital only. So जब सर सब कुछ ही पकड़ लिया आपका सब कुछ उनको कच्चा चिट्ठा पता है कि आपके पास कितने बैंक अकाउंट है, उन बैंक अकाउंटों का कितना क्लोजिंग बैलेंस है, कितने शेयर्स हैं, कितनी शेयर ट्रांजैक्शन करी है, कितनी प्रॉपर्टी ट्रांजैक्शन करी है आपने, कितने जगह आपने क्रेडिट कार्ड यूज किया है, कितने फॉरेन ट्रेवल किए हैं, बिजली का बिल कितना है, तो सब कुछ तो उन्हें पता है.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
तो आप क्या छुपाओगे सर? तो
आपको नहीं लगता है कि जो महाराष्ट्र क्रांति एक जो संगठन ने 2-3 साल पहले जो एक प्रपोजल दिया था गवर्नमेंट को that you charge income tax right at the inception of a transaction and abolish everything, is it a drive towards that?
नहीं सर, बिल्कुल नहीं है सर. सर देखो वो हो भी नहीं सकता हमारे यहाँ, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ सर क्या है, जिस रेट पे ट्रांजैक्शन शुरू होती है और जिस रेट पे खत्म होती है वो जो है 200 टाइम्स 300 टाइम्स होता है. आप शुरुआत करते हैं सर, हम सबसे छोटी चीज जो हम घर से लेके आते हैं सर, दूध होता है या सब्जी होती है. सर आपको आलू जो है जब किसान से खरीदा जाता है तो 1 रुपए 2 रुपए किलो होता है, और जब तक वो हमारे यहाँ मार्केट में पहुंचता है तो वो 15 रुपए हो चुका होता है. तो अगर मैं सर इंसेप्शन पे टैक्स लगा दूंगा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ये तो चलिए एग्रीकल्चर की बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं अदर देन एग्रीकल्चर की बात भी कर सकता हूँ, तो सर वहां पे टैक्स लगा दूंगा तो जो बाकी का वैल्यू एडिशन है वो कैसे टैक्स होगा? तो वो आई बिलीव कि it is not a practical solution in a society like us, because हमारा जो ability to pay principle है, when I talk globally about the levy of income tax is on the ability to pay principle. जिनकी ज्यादा ability है वो ज्यादा टैक्स दे, जिनकी कम ability है वो कम टैक्स दे. वो बात अलग है कि हमारे यहाँ हर कोई कहता है मेरी ability नहीं है, ऐसे नहीं, unless कि वो 26 years में आ रही हो या वो salary income हो, otherwise किसी की ability नहीं
होती.
But ठीक है सर, but as a principle, as an economist, when we talk about, so there is a slab system of rate, there is a slab system of surcharge rate based on this principle only. तो अगर हम इंसेप्शन पे लगा देंगे तो वो लोग जो इंसेप्शन पे काम करते हैं उन लोगों को तो टैक्स देना पड़ेगा. जो बीच में ट्रेडिंग का काम कर रहे हैं या जो ओरिजिनेटर नहीं है उनका क्या होगा? सर इसको मैं दूसरी तरीके से बोलूं, जैसे एंट्री ऑपरेटर होता है ना सर, एक होता है जो बनाता है एंट्री, मतलब जिसकी कंपनियां होती है, और उसके बाद एक लंबी चेन होती है, तो बीच असली पैसा तो वो बीच वाले रखते हैं बेचारे, उसको क्या मिलता है? तो वो आई बिलीव कि थोड़ा सा इट्स अगेंस्ट द प्रिंसिपल, बट हो सकता है सर टाइम्स टू कम कुछ इसका इंप्रूव वर्जन आए. आई थिंक देयर वाज अ रिसर्च.
इंप्रूव वर्जन तो यही है ना कि मान लीजिए इंसेप्शन को उन्होंने चेंज कर दिया हो, दैट आइडिया वाज ओरिजिनली इंसेप्शन, नाउ दे माइट बी थिंकिंग.
मैं बताता हूँ सर आपको, ये उन्होंने कहां से लिया. सर एम्स्टरडैम यूनिवर्सिटी में, बिकॉज इट्स अ ग्लोबल प्रिंसिपल सर ईयू ने एक नया कंसेप्ट टेक्स्ट निकाला था 2012 से, विच इज सीसीसीटीबी अप्रोच। सीसीसीटीबी क्या थी? बेसिकली ये ई कॉमर्स कंपनीज और बाकी कंपनीज की थी। उन्होंने कहा कि किसी भी कंपनी को हम 3 बेसिस पे टैक्स करेंगे। उसका कंसोलिडेट बेस हम 3 चीजें पे लेंगे, उसके एम्प्लॉय कितने हैं, उसकी सेल कितनी हो रही है, और तीसरा हम लेंगे उसकी फिजिकल लोकेशंस कितनी है, कस्टमर बेस कितना है। तो उन्होंने कहा हम इस पे लेंगे। तो इसके ऊपर सर एक एम्स्टरडैम यूनिवर्सिटी ने एक रिसर्च पब्लिश करी है, और अभी देयर रिसर्च इज स्टिल गोइंग ऑन, इज टू टैक्स द ओरिजिन। So they are coming up with a global concept called कि we should have an origin based taxation। अब वो origin based taxation के ऊपर 2014 में, अपने 2015 में they have come up with first paper on this origin based taxation। However, it was criticized badly in the international forums। ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा। तो I think the research is going on, और इन्होंने हो सकता है वहीं से कुछ रिसर्च उठाई हो जिसके बेसिस पे बोला। बट हर एक चीज के सर मेरिट डिमेरिट होते हैं।
राइट।
तो आई बिलीव कि this is a topic which we can debate or for hours, but क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा तो सर सरकार बताएगी, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर बताएंगे, बताएंगे। but हमें तो सर एज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ लॉ वी हैव टू डील विद जो आ गया उसी को डील करना है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
बट आई थिंक गवर्नमेंट शुड अंडरस्टैंड कि कंप्लायंस बर्डन हैव इंक्रीज ह्यूजली। बहुत बर्डन बढ़ गया सर। अभी जैसे सर मैं आपको एग्जांपल दूं, डिविडेंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के ऊपर इन्होंने टीडीएस लगा दिया। अब हमारे लिए नहीं लगाया सर, अपने लिए लगाया। पहले उनको 20% मिलता, अब अगर किसी की 45% वाली ब्रैकेट में है तो उसको 45 मिलेगा। पहले 10 लाख की एग्जम्पशन देनी पड़ती थी, अब 10 लाख की भी एग्जम्पशन नहीं मिलेगी। इवन 1 रुपए डिविडेंड आएगा उसके ऊपर भी बंदा टैक्स देगा, चाहे वो 30 दे चाहे 20 दे। लेकिन सर कंपनी के पर्सपेक्टिव से सोचो सर, 10 लाख शेयर होल्डर का डेटा है, 10 लाख शेयर होल्डर डेटा को वैलिड पेन निकालो, उसका 20% काटो, नॉन रेजिडेंट का 20.8 काटो, सरचार्ज लगाओ, फिर उसके बाद टीडीएस रिटर्न भरो, ये करो। मतलब द काइंड ऑफ कंप्लायंस द कॉर्पोरेट हैज टू डू फॉर ऑल दिस। तो गवर्नमेंट शुड रियलाइज दैट पर्टिकुलर पार्ट आल्सो। सर हम कोई आज वो नहीं है कि सब कुछ आईटी से चल रहा है। तो दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स, और ये टीसीएस वाले से तो सर पता नहीं क्या होगा अभी आगे।
कमिंग बैक टू टीसीएस, अविनाश जी, ये जो 3 एक्सक्लूजन उन्होंने किए, इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस, सेल्स रिटर्न एंड डिस्काउंट्स, जो सेल्स रिटर्न और डिस्काउंट है वो तो मेरे बिल से कभी रियलाइज ही नहीं होगा।
नहीं सर, ये
तो
पता सेल्स
बोला कि उसका कोई एडजस्टमेंट की जरूरत नहीं है।
नहीं है, जरूरत है सर, मैं बताता हूँ कैसे। सर अगर मान लीजिए आपको पेमेंट नहीं आई तब तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है सर, मैंने सेल करी, आपने रिटर्न कर दी और नेट अमाउंट की पेमेंट कर दी, क्योंकि मेरे को तो पेमेंट पे है। सर अगर आपने मेरे को एडवांस दे रखा है, मान लीजिए आपने मेरे को 1 करोड़ रुपए एडवांस दिया और उस 1 करोड़ रुपए को मैंने टीसीएस जमा कर दिया, अब उसके बदले में मैंने आपको सेल कर दी। अब उस सेल जो करी उसकी रिटर्न आ गई मेरे पास, एंड देन आई हैव टू रिफंड यू द मनी। तो सर उन्होंने कहा है कि वो जो आप रिफंड करोगे उस रिफंड की एडजस्टमेंट नहीं हो सकती। जो फ्यूचर में आएगा सर वो तो पैसे ही नहीं आया तो आपको
हाँ, वही बात है। मतलब इट विल अराइज ओनली इन द केसेस ऑफ एडवांसेस।
यस करेक्ट। सर जब ये आया था ना तो मैंने भी पहले यही सोचा था कि ये क्यों आया है, ये तो कोई होगा ही नहीं। फिर then I realized कि it is with respect to advance only। जो एडवांस का पैसा अगर आप वापस करोगे तो उसमें ये दिक्कत आएगी। तो इसलिए उन्होंने यहाँ पे लिखा कि ये एडवांस रिटर्न भी हो सकता है, डिस्काउंट भी हो सकता है। और सामान भेज देते हैं जब क्वालिटी अच्छी नहीं होती या क्वालिटी अप टू दी मार्क नहीं होती तो वी ऑफर हिम डिस्काउंट। तो अब उसका तरीका ये है कि उसको इस बिल से ना एडजस्ट करते हुए फ्यूचर बिलों से एडजस्ट कर।
राइट। थैंक यू अविनाश जी। So friends, we had a wonderful discussion, all questions. We even went to some other topics also, a little bit of debate on why these TCS provisions have come. So wonderful discussion, Avinash ji, today. And I request our General Secretary Rajesh ji to propose a formal vote of thanks for him.
Thank you, President. Good evening, everyone. Before giving formal vote of thanks, I would like to announce forthcoming webinar. On 8 October 2020, analysis of SEBI settlement scheme. Speaker is CA Pawan Kumar Vijay, past President of ICICI. On behalf of DTP and myself, I thank to C. Avinash Gupta ji from Delhi NRIC member for giving wonderful derivation for new TCS provisions as first virtual meeting of new term 2021. I thank past President, Office Bearer, participants for joining the virtual meeting. I also thank to Shyam Agarwal for making this a nice arrangement. Thanks to all.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू अविनाश जी, बहुत अच्छा लगा आपसे मिलकर के। ये पहला डिस्कशन है, लेकिन बहुत अच्छा लगा, आपका डेलिब्रेशन भी बहुत अच्छा लगा, आपसे मिलके भी बहुत अच्छा लगा.
So thanks to Central Council member Ranjit Agarwal ji for coordinating with Avinash Gupta ji.
Yes, that was very much necessary.
अच्छा, मेरे को पता ही नहीं था रंजीत जी ने नंबर दिया था. आई इवन डोंट नो कि
रंजीत जी ने नंबर दिया था आपसे कोऑर्डिनेट करने के लिए.
मतलब अब तो आपने बोला. अच्छा, मैं आपको बताऊं, हमारे यहाँ सर DTPA ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वो एडवोकेट की एसोसिएशन है दिल्ली में.
अच्छा अच्छा.
तो इनिशियली आई थॉट दैट दे हैव कॉल्ड मी.
ओके ओके.
ये तो आपका जब वो व्हाट्सएप पे आपने पोस्टर बना के भेजा, देन आई रियलाइज कि ये कलकत्ता की है. Otherwise, I am under the impression it is advocates organization, because there also I delivered more than 10 times the lecture. अच्छा, और उनके सेक्रेटरी का नाम भी राजेश जी है. So I was never under, मतलब आपका इंप्रेशन ही नहीं था कि ये कलकत्ता से है.
अच्छा अच्छा. रंजीत जी ने बताया तो हम लोगों ने बोला ठीक है, हम लोग वैसे भी कोशिश करते रहते हैं, बिकॉज देखिए कलकत्ता के जो स्पीकर्स हैं वो तो हम लोग रोज ही मिलते हैं, तो वंस इन ए वाइल डेफिनेटली हम लोग कोई भी जो नया चीजें हैं उस पे वी टू हैव ए पैन इंडिया व्यू. सो नाइस ऑफ यू अविनाश जी.
तो आपकी कंपाइलेशन से पता चलता है आप कितना काम करते हैं. रियली वेरी गुड कंपाइलेशन.
Thank you.
थैंक यू
थैंक यू अविनाश जी. थैंक यू.
Thank you. Thank you, Avinash ji. Thank you. Thanks to